There is an unchanging rule in business. Anything that looks too perfect is usually because the cracks have been carefully hidden. And in Dubai, where skyscrapers and artificial islands are seen as the peak of prosperity, a $5 billion crack is beginning to show right beneath the feet of the wealthiest visitors. Many people claim they have seen the first signs of deterioration in these real estate properties. Cracked plaster, exposed rebar rusting, and joints absorbing water right where the palm fronds meet the sea. This is the kind of structural decay you usually only see in 4-0-year-old buildings that haven't been properly maintained. But remember, Palm Jumeirah was only completed between 2006 and 2010. Some villas here are not even 20 years old. Are we witnessing the collapse of a development model once considered untouchable? That is exactly what we are going to break down today. Instead of the solid concrete blocks shown in glossy 3D renderings, what people are seeing are peeling plaster layers, exposing heavily corroded steel reinforcement inside. Through cracks run along the load-bearing beams, right where luxury meets the sea. Structural joints appear to have absorbed water and are covered in white salt deposits, a phenomenon experts call concrete cancer. It's like buying a shiny Rolex, only to discover the mechanism inside is being eaten away by rust. And here's the thing. Most of these villas were completed between 2006 and 2010. As of now, they are less than 20 years old. Yet the level of deterioration being recorded resembles abandoned 4-0-year-old structures in old industrial cities. Why is this aging happening so fast? The answer likely lies in the very environment that people tried to tame. Seawater in the Persian Gulf is not like that in the Atlantic Ocean. With salinity 1.6 to 2 times higher and summer temperatures pushing surface water close to 100 degrees Fahrenheit, this is one of the most aggressive corrosion testing chambers on the planet. Many experts say that concrete structures in this region may require special maintenance programs as early as year 10. Otherwise, chloride intrusion can turn solid pillars into chalk-like material within a single generation. So how did brokers and major property owners react when the images spread? Strong denial. They called it a competitor's trick or a product of jealousy. That is understandable. When you are holding an asset worth $5 or $10 million, would you want to admit that its foundation is being eaten away by seawater? Liquidity risk here is real. Just a rumor about structural flaws can wipe out property value faster than a drop of water hitting desert sand. There seems to be a psychological trap for those who bought at the peak in 2022, 2023. They would rather believe in glossy renderings than face the reality beneath the water. However, behind closed doors, remediation costs are becoming a hotter topic than ever, with rumored figures reaching hundreds of thousands of dollars per property. It seems many people bought Palm Jumeirah the way they buy a luxury handbag, based on reputation and promises of an elite lifestyle. They hire inspections for minor issues like paint or plumbing, but overlook deep structural surveys beneath the seawater before signing million-dollar checks. The crack photo of 2025 may not bring the island down immediately, but it could mark the end of an era of innocence. Faith in impossible projects may be giving way to practical skepticism. At this stage, we understand that nothing is truly free, and an artificial island built on sand in the middle of a salty sea has never been a game for those lacking patience or maintenance budgets. People often talk about Palm Jumeirah as a wonder, but from an engineering perspective, it is more like a massive experiment in building castles on sand, literally. To create this island, engineers could not use desert sand because the grains are too fine, like trying to build a house with flour. Instead, they dredged millions of tons of sand from the seabed. To turn that wet sand into something capable of supporting multi-million-dollar villas, they used a technique called vibrocompaction. Imagine inserting a giant vibrating probe into the ground to compress the sand particles together. It sounds very high-tech, similar to how engineers at Caterpillar build heavy machinery. However, there is a flaw that marketing brochures often forget to mention. This foundation is essentially an open structure. It is not a solid mass of rock. It is a giant sponge that allows seawater to seep through every gap, directly reaching the deep foundation of the structure. Have you ever wondered why the water in the Gulf looks so intensely blue? That's because it is extremely salty. While the average ocean salinity is about 35 parts per thousand, the Persian Gulf can reach 42-45 parts per thousand. This is not ordinary seawater. It acts like a mild acid to concrete and steel reinforcement. The combination of extremely high salinity and Dubai's intense heat creates an effect engineers call the Arrhenius law. Basically, for every 18 degrees Fahrenheit increase in temperature, the rate of corrosive chemical reactions doubles. With seawater temperatures often exceeding 95 degrees Fahrenheit in the summer, the steel inside these villas appears to be cooking in a massive pot of salt water. Continuous expansion and contraction between day and night create microcracks invisible to the naked eye, but they act as highways for salt to penetrate deep into the structure's core. Many of us trust strict engineering standards, just as we trust a Hamilton watch or a Cummins engine. However, the American Society of Civil Engineers, ASCE, has issued rather grim warnings. Standard design criteria meant for more moderate environments simply do not hold up here. Data shows that the rate of structural degradation of concrete in this region can be 3 to 5 times faster than in North America. If a coastal structure in Florida has a major maintenance cycle of about 25-30 years, at Palm Jumeirah, that timeline appears to shrink to just 10-15 years. That is far too short for a lifetime investment. Carbonation, which reduces the pH level of concrete, is happening at an alarming rate, stripping away the natural protective layer of steel reinforcement and exposing it to corrosion. Homebuyers at Palm Jumeirah often seek stability and prestige, but in reality, they may be holding a geotechnical burden. Because sand compaction can never achieve perfect uniformity, differential settlement seems unavoidable. Just a few fractions of an inch of uneven movement can create structural cracks in expensive marble walls. Maintaining the stability of an artificial island against constant tidal and groundwater pressure is astonishingly expensive. These hidden costs rarely appear at wine receptions in Manhattan or London when Dubai real estate is being marketed. You can build an island with money, but keeping nature from reclaiming it seems to be a battle even billionaires must reconsider financially. In the end, the sea does not care how much money you have in your account. It only responds to chemistry and physics. And at Palm Jumeirah, it seems the sea is starting to collect its debt. You know, there has been an unchanging rule since the time of Henry Ford. The more unique and sophisticated something is, the more likely its repair bill will leave you stunned. If you have ever paid to maintain a private jet or an ocean-going yacht, you understand that luxury is often just another term for bottomless operating costs. At Palm Jumeirah, elite isolation seems to be delivering a bill that no insurance company wants to cover. Living on an artificial frond extending into the sea offers not only million-dollar views, but also a logistics nightmare. You can easily call a Home Depot truck or a repair crew in suburban America, but on Dubai's palm fronds, nothing is that simple. The single-access roads to these narrow fronds are frequently congested, turning the transport of construction materials into a test of patience. Need to repair a foundation or rock revetment being eroded by waves? Forget standard excavators. You will likely need barges, marine cranes, and specialized equipment usually found only at major ports. Estimates suggest that mobilizing such resources can cost 3 to 6 times more than similar projects on land. Add to that strict noise regulations to preserve the tranquility for elite residents, and construction timelines stretch endlessly, and in business, time for skilled labor is the fastest way to burn cash. Some critics say the developer Nakheel may have executed a remarkably strategic financial maneuver. They used the prestige of the Palm brand to sell villas at sky-high prices, but when waves began attacking the structural foundations, they appeared to have stepped back through complex contractual clauses. Responsibility for maintaining the most critical components, the outer breakwater and deep underwater foundations, seems to have been effectively transferred to homeowners once short-term warranties expired. According to a 2024 report from Fitch Ratings, Nakheel's business model appears to be shifting heavily toward collecting community management fees. Simply put, they secure steady profits from management, while risks of subsidence or corrosion worth hundreds of thousands of dollars become your personal balance sheet problem, not theirs. It is a business model that any Wall Street CEO would admire for its brilliance or its ruthlessness. If you have ever served on a condo board in Florida or New York, you know the importance of reserve funds. But at Palm Jumeirah, things seem far looser. With about 25% of owners frequently absent, coordinating a comprehensive structural inspection plan across an entire frond appears nearly impossible. This creates a dangerous free rider effect. You may spend money reinforcing your villa's foundation, but if your neighbor neglects theirs, cascading subsidence can drag down entire rows of homes. The lack of an enforced, coordinated maintenance mechanism is turning the area into a hidden state of disorder, where responsibility is passed around while the sea continues its relentless advance. And did you know that conducting a full structural survey and waterproofing remediation for a villa here can cost between $150,000 and $400,000? That amount could cover the basic living expenses of a family of 4 for 1 to 3 years. For investors who bought properties to rent out with expectations of sustainable ROI, return on investment, this bill could swallow all rental income for the next 5 to 8 years. The true net asset value of these villas appears to be far lower than their listed market prices once you subtract the mounting maintenance liabilities accumulating with each tide. It seems this symbol of the future is beginning to send its owners bills from the past, and they are anything but cheap. It seems the allure of the Palm Island is gradually fading in the eyes of the most seasoned investors. While emerging areas like Dubai Hills Estate and Jumeirah Bay Island have been enjoying proud double-digit growth over the past year, Palm Jumeirah appears to be losing momentum. Data from Property Monitor shows that price per square foot here is entering a phase experts call softening. Imagine it like trying to hold the price of an old Corvette while everyone around you has moved on to the latest high-performance electric models. The ultra-wealthy, with their keen sense of risk, seem to be prioritizing projects built to 2024, 2026 standards rather than betting on 2-0-year-old structures approaching major overhaul cycles on this artificial island. And the most striking figure isn't the sale price, it's the vacancy rate. According to a report from Dubicel Property, as many as 22-28% of villas in the Franz area are not regularly occupied. That's nearly one-third of a symbol of luxury sitting still in the dark. If you've ever owned a vacation home in Florida, you know what happens when a house is left unoccupied without continuous air conditioning in intense heat. In Dubai, salt concentration and humidity turn vacant villas into incubation chambers for concrete deterioration. High vacancy doesn't just drain the life out of a community, it turns the palm fronds into luxury graveyards, where decay happens quietly but twice as fast due to the absence of human care. There's a major irony when real estate becomes gold-like. Many buyers of villas on Palm Jumeirah seem to treat them merely as a store of value, like buying a gold bar or an Andy Warhol painting. They buy, leave it there, and wait for the price to rise before flipping it to the next owner. But if you look closely, this could be a fatal flaw in thinking. Why? Gold doesn't require maintenance, an artificial island in a salty sea does. When speculation is the sole objective, absentee owners tend to minimize maintenance costs. The result? A gradual physical decline. While listed prices on paper may appear stable, the underlying structure, the core value, is being eroded day by corrosion and seawater. Many experts have pointed out the underperformance of Palm Jumeirah compared to the broader, ultra-luxury segment. It seems the market has quietly begun to reprice geotechnical risks that were previously overlooked. Additionally, analyses show that rental cash flow is shifting toward areas with modern infrastructure connectivity and lower operating costs. This directly pressures yields for owners on the Palm. When the real value of assets starts to fall significantly below their book value, we are looking at a technical bubble. We all understand that true luxury must come with sustainability. A villa that looks like a palace but carries the burden of massive maintenance liabilities is probably not the dream you want to buy. The question is, are you investing in lasting value, or just holding a first-class ticket on a ship that is starting to take on water? Palm Jumeirah, a symbol of ultimate wealth, is becoming one of Dubai's worst congestion hotspots. The average travel time along the main trunk road has surged to an almost unbelievable level. You spend millions to buy exclusivity, yet every morning you find yourself stuck in traffic at the Palm West Beach Junction, no different from being part of a massive migration in Los Angeles during rush hour. The only difference is that here, you have no alternative route. The entry from Sheikh Zayed Road feels like a narrow funnel, where all aspirations of luxury must pause to give way to the reality of infrastructure overload. Originally, the island was promised as an open, tranquil space, but it seems that greed overtook the engineering calculations of firms like Bechtel and Turner. High-rise apartments and hotels were densely packed along the trunk to maximize every inch of land. The consequence? An extreme compression model. The total number of hotel rooms and apartments has far exceeded the capacity of the internal road network. And here's the bad news. You can't expand roads on an artificial island as easily as expanding highways in Texas. Water boundaries and breakwaters are finite. Even the monorail system, once expected to rescue residents, appears powerless against the private transportation habits of those who value privacy. True luxury must come with convenience, but on Palm Jumeirah, luxury seems to come with a sense of confinement. You buy an iconic address, only to realize that getting to the financial center, DIFC, or the airport takes twice as long as living in a more ordinary mainland area. And that's not all. The rise of entertainment complexes and public beaches is drawing thousands of visitors every weekend. The peace and privacy you paid dearly for are being eroded by honking horns and crowds of tourists. It's a paradox. The more famous you are, the more you lose what you truly need. Data is beginning to show a clear shift. Investors and busy professionals appear to be gradually turning away from Palm Jumeirah in favor of multi-nodal planned communities like Dubai Hills Estate, where they can stay connected to the world without constantly checking the clock in frustration. Time lost in traffic is essentially a hidden tax on luxury itself. Does an iconic address still hold value if it takes away your most precious asset, time? It seems the market is starting to realize that a paradise locked behind overloaded access roads is nothing more than a gilded cage. And you know it at our stage in life. Time is something no real estate discount can ever compensate for. If you've ever run a business or simply held a long-term investment portfolio, you know the scariest moment isn't when revenue plateaus. It's when the founders start figuring out how to milk what's left instead of reinvesting. In finance, this is called the harvesting phase. In Dubai, it seems Nakheel, the creator of the Palm, is offering a real-world lesson in transforming from an ambitious builder into a diligent tax collector. Revenue from selling new villas on Palm Jumeirah appears to be drying up along with the available land. Instead, Nakheel's primary income stream is shifting heavily toward community management fees and infrastructure service charges. Imagine it like a major automaker, such as General Motors, suddenly losing interest in improving engines or chassis and focusing only on charging parking fees and maintenance fees from customers who already bought their cars. By turning existing residential communities into stable cash printing machines, Nakheel may be trying to polish its balance sheet to meet massive debt obligations from the past. A smart financial tactic, but one that raises serious questions for those living on the island. In real estate economics, when a developer stops investing in upgrading core value and shifts toward maximizing service fees, it's often a signal that the project has peaked and is entering a decline phase. Do you see the contradiction? While management fees continue to rise steadily, the actual quality of maintenance seems to be moving in the opposite direction. Could the shift toward a fee-based model be leading to cost-cutting in operations to optimize profit margins for the developer? When the builder is no longer committed to preserving the island's symbolic value and only cares about collecting recurring payments, secondary investors may need to start worrying. The belief that asset values will grow forever seems to be shaken by the very indifference of its creator. If you live in a tightly governed HOA community in the US, you have voting rights and the ability to question how your funds are spent on irrigation or security. But on Palm Jumeirah, you seem to be part of a game where the rules are set by a single party. Residents here have very little say in how Nakheel uses millions of dollars in community management funds. More concerning, there appears to be no infrastructure bailout roadmap from authorities for subsidence or natural corrosion issues threatening the island's foundation. The silence of regulators in the face of macro-level structural deterioration may be the most troubling aspect. There is a blunt reality. Nakheel is focusing its resources on new offspring like Palm Jebel Ali, a project even larger and more promising. What does that suggest to you? Is Palm Jumeirah being treated as a legacy asset to be fully exploited rather than a future priority? If you think only billionaires live on the Palm, you might want to reconsider. There is an upper middle class people who saved their entire lives. Perhaps small business owners or retirees from Europe who placed their trust in $5 million villas here. And now, they are facing what I call the upper class debt trap. Imagine enjoying retirement and receiving a $400,000 structural repair bill. That's nearly 20% of the home's value. It's not an expense anyone can casually absorb. Meanwhile, rental prices on the island seem to be pulled down by competition from newer, more on-trend developments. The result is that many may be falling into technical negative equity, where the real value of the home, after maintenance obligations, could be lower than the outstanding mortgage. And a luxury island always needs quiet hands to keep it perfect. But maintenance workers, security staff, and housekeepers here seem to be paying the price for the owner's glamour. Data shows housing costs in nearby areas like Dira have risen 30%, and transportation costs are up 18%. Yet wages for this workforce appear to have remained frozen since 2021. As villa owners tighten their belts to compensate for corroding concrete, migrant workers are the first to lose benefits. What we may be seeing is quiet attrition, where reputable management firms are replaced by cheaper operators willing to accept lower welfare standards. You know this. A paradise cannot function well if its plumbers and cleaners are struggling just to get by. Now comes the most controversial part, the 10-year golden visa. It sounds prestigious, but in reality, even if you spend millions of dollars, you're still only a temporary guest. Unlike owning a ranch in Texas or an apartment in New York where you gain permanent residency rights and political voice here, you seem to have no voting power over how the island is run. The paradox is this. An artificial island requires permanent maintenance commitment, but its owners operate with a short-term, visa-based mindset. Why would you spend millions reinforcing a foundation for the next 50 years when you're not even guaranteed to stay beyond 10? This impermanence is creating a community of people ready to leave rather than ready to protect. If the middle class leaves, and only isolated ultra-wealthy individuals and an exploited workforce remain, the social vitality of Palm Jumeirah will likely disappear. It will no longer be a community, but merely a massive aging resort. Palm Jumeirah may be the ultimate test for the UAE's cash for residency model. If this flagship project cannot create a sustainable social foundation, confidence in future dreams like Palm Jebel Ali could evaporate quickly. In the end, you can use money to build an island, but you cannot buy long-term cohesion and trust. No matter how beautiful a structure is, if its social foundation is unstable, even the strongest steel and concrete lose their meaning. Let me be precise about this, because this is the core point. Palm Jumeirah will not sink. The island's engineering foundation remains stable, and the land itself is not going anywhere. What is actually at risk is not the island's physical existence, but its ability to sustain a premium valuation, the very thing that has justified all the sky-high prices people have paid over the past 15 years. That premium was once backed by a narrative of desire and permanent exclusivity, but now, that very belief product is deteriorating a slow, uneven erosion that is extremely hard to detect through glossy images, unless you know exactly where to look. Dubai once bounced back after the 2009 crash, when real estate prices dropped by more than 60%. There is a scenario in which the island reinvents itself through a government-backed remediation program and a more sustainable ownership model. That scenario is possible, but it is not reflected in current market signals. What we are seeing instead is a growing divergence. The narrative says this is the pinnacle of global ambition, while the data says this is a 20-year-old artificial island in a highly corrosive marine environment with deferred maintenance. So the question for you, those holding capital or considering deploying it here, is this. Which of those two are you actually buying? Because they have never been the same product. If you currently own property on the island, I genuinely want to know how this analysis affects you. Will you choose to believe in the glow of the narrative or act based on the hard numbers emerging beneath your feet? Leave your thoughts in the comments below.